the Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Stephen Sakach. We have Tullio, Siragusa, and Maher with us. Does your company mission or purpose statement sound like someone created it by throwing darts at a corporate buzzword bingo card? Today, we attempt to decipher the corporate equivalent of hieroglyphics. Our quest is how to define your company's purpose and live by it. Ash, you and I, we both have family in the Vegas area, right? So, you know that drive when you're going out there, you've got that desert, sort of the barren landscape and the tumbleweeds and the dirt. And then I think for most people, we have a different experience when we go there. We're going there to visit family, right? A lot of times. I think for most people, they're going there, hit the Vegas Strip. So they're out there, they're driving through the tumbleweeds, they're going through the desert, they hit the Vegas Strip, they're there for 3 or 4 days or whatever their max they can take, and then they're just done. I think that's kind of the equivalent of this process that companies go through when they're coming up with this corporate purpose statement. They're like, let's go, let's do this. And then after a while, stuff that sounded good early on, it just starts, the soul starts getting sucked out of it over time as they keep working on it. Or those flights to Vegas, Hatch, the ones you're out there, everyone's all pumped up. They're amped up to get there, right? And then what's it like on the way back? It's just, they're just drained and there's nothing. Soulless, right?
The quote is, I need a vacation from my vacation. I hear about all the time. No, but to that point, it's like you get everyone fired up and then that's what comes out at the end. So
let's just call it blue.
Yeah, it's just like, it made sense at one point. It was brilliant. But so I think, I'll tell you, even just reading 100 or so of these for this show, I feel it. Like we're doing the hard work out there for listeners on some of this. The best purpose statements serve as kind of a philosophical anchor or a compass that guides an organization, right? So when they're making priorities or decisions, it's there for them. They capture the why, and that inspires people. That's a really good purpose statement. So real quick, guys, I asked ChatGPT to write some buzzword bingo corporate purpose lines, and then I mixed those with some real ones. So tell me if these are real or fake. All right. So here's the first one. To achieve superior growth and returns for our shareholders by delivering technology and services that improve efficiency, increase recovery, and maximize production for our customers. Real or fake?
That's got to be real because that's dry as corporate can be.
That's real, and it's Halberton. It's awful.
I almost said fake. I was going to say fake. Why?
The corporate hacks of corporate hacking.
Yeah.
Notice the focus on shareholders there too. First
No
thing.
Right.
All right. Here's another one. To help people see data in new ways, discover insights, unlock endless possibilities. Real or fake?
Oh, I'd say fake. Because why?
That one's real.
Oh,
that one's real. That's Oracle.
Okay.
Okay. It almost sounds human though.
Yeah.
It was close. All right. To facilitate unparalleled growth and revolutionary market leadership in a sustainable, agile framework. Real or fake?
That's for sure fake.
That's real.
That one's fake. That one's fake.
Oh, okay, good.
Awesome. Got one.
All right. Well, let's see. A couple more. To produce superior financial returns for its shareholders by providing high-value added logistics, transportations, and related business services through focused operating companies. Real or fake?
I'm gonna say real. Now that I know that there are the Northern Light is to make the shareholders happy, and there's companies that are like that, then I guess that has to be real. I don't think the consumer I would care too much.
Can I answer?
Real.
It shouldn't be real.
It shouldn't be
real. That's FedEx. I actually couldn't find a real clear one on them, and everything said this was it, which is it's their first line of their mission statement. So, yeah, you think
they care about the shareholders, but they're delivering packages to me. What?
Okay, last one. To empower cross-functional teams to drive holistic, scalable solutions in the pursuit of maximizing shareholder value through strategic excellence. Real or fake?
It just sounds stuffed.
That's real.
I'm gonna say
That's a
fake.
tech company for sure.
That one's fake.
That was fake.
That should be fake.
So one thing that sticks out on those to me, it's just really hard to wrap your head around, let alone kind of sink your teeth into. So in our company EQ training we had last week, there was this story about JFK asking this random worker at NASA what they did. And the worker said, I'm helping get a man on the moon. Ideally, a good purpose statement is something like that, something that everyone, no matter what position they're in the organization, it's something that everyone can all kind of understand and rally around. It's something you're aiming for as a group. So everyone is seeing how they're, what they're doing is contributing to that ultimate objective. It's not a tagline. It's not, save that for advertising. They can come up with the clever taglines on it. It's just should answer the question of why we're in business, right? So let's go through some good ones here. Let me start and I'll throw it to you guys after. I want to take a really simple example. This is Ben & Jerry. Ben & Jerry's aim is to make the best possible ice cream in the nicest possible way. I think that's pretty straightforward, and it combines their sort of commitment to their product quality and also with their emphasis on their, social and environmental responsibility that they have. So, but it's really simple. It's something that everyone who's working there can understand and remember. It's like a North Star, and the key to defining a good company purpose and living by it is to make it as simple as possible, something that everyone can remember. And all those other purpose statements we just read, those real or fake ones, can you remember any of those?
Nope.
Probably. Yeah, probably not. But to make the best possible ice cream in the nicest possible way, way easier to remember than, the stuff we were reading before.
They
so
could
what
have
do you
made it to make the nicest possible ice cream for the nicest possible people by the nicest possible. Anyway,
not the mean people. Mean people don't get ice cream. All right. So, Tullio, what do you got for as far as a good purpose statement that you like that you've come across?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of people, a lot of companies even confuse this idea of mission statement, vision statement, and purpose statement, which are very different things. All three are very different things. And as you said earlier, it's about, purposes like what is the core fundamental reason you exist? What is that you're trying to accomplish? I like the Airbnb one, to create a world where anyone can belong anywhere. It's so simple. Who doesn't want to belong, right? It's kind of one of the innate human desire to have a sense of belonging. So to create a world where anyone can belong anywhere. So it's inclusive. It's really amazing. I'm not surprised because Airbnb has a history. They've often been a use case for design thinking principles, as a matter of fact, which is process for how you solve problems, but you approach it in a very empathetic way. You define it, you create ideas for how to solve the problem, and then you prototype and test it. But the whole thing is centered around people and people's desire for memorable experiences. You said earlier, how many of these purpose statements do you remember? None, because they were not memorable. They were not designed to be memorable for people. Even the shareholders probably don't remember those statements. It's like all they remember is they're doing something for us. So in any case, Airbnb was founded by Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia, who are both designers. So not surprised. This idea that they came up with was there was a big problem in finding accommodation for conferences in San Francisco. Whenever there's a major conference, finding accommodation was difficult. And so there was a shortage of hotels. And this sort of created an opportunity. They saw an opportunity, these two, to maybe offer up their apartment or a space in their apartment for a place to stay for other people who were perhaps looking for a place to stay to go to a conference. And so they toyed with this idea. I say toy because it was really an experiment, and it worked. A lot of people were willing to stay in someone else's place to go to a conference because there was no other option. And so, but that also created this, they get a lot of feedback from it, and they spoke to people, and that helped them to define this even further. And they realized, wow, we actually are onto something. People do need a place to stay, but they want to feel like they belong to something. So when they stay as a guest in someone's home, it's more meaningful than a hotel, for example. So throughout their growth, they have always looked to get feedback from both the hosts and the guests. They have used this feedback for continuous improvements and innovation in their service, which is paramount to being empathetic. You have to be able to listen and apply what you're listening to. And also they've implemented these across their website, their app, everything they've done, even in their creation of the Airbnb experiences, which is offering unique hosted locally events. So in essence, their purpose statement is probably one that most people will remember. It's basically, you have a sense of feeling of belonging. That's it.
I like that belong anywhere. It's, kind of simple and something that you can.
And anyone. So it's like anyone can relate to that. It's so powerful.
I think really one of the things I'm really surprised by, a company like FedEx, for example, with their mission statement, the impact I think that people are drawn to when it comes to the mission statement. I think they're drawn to the impact the business has on the customers, the impact it has on its employees, the impact the company has on the world. And when people know that they're a part of something, I think that is something that they could follow and attach themselves to. So I want to just give you an example, because I'm, again, very surprised that FedEx's mission statement was the first part of FedEx's mission statement was for the shareholders. Now, there are two mission statements coming from two of probably the biggest companies in the world. You have Apple, and I was going to say Tesla, but I wanted to segue into SpaceX, because SpaceX and Elon Musk's mission statement, his vision, right, to be able to drive everyone together. You have to have an impactful, purpose-driven statement in it to be able to do and accomplish those things. So I want to just read this to you, and then I want to give you a version of it that followed maybe the current corporate guidelines. So let me give you an example. So this is SpaceX's: to revolutionize space technology with the ultimate goal of enabling people to live on other planets. Now, I want you to hear how this sounds if I were to rewrite it this way and describe the feeling you have now. And would you be drawn to this? To revolutionize space technology with the ultimate goal of enabling billionaires to live on other planets. Let's take one more. I have Apple.
The total opposite of Airbnb statement.
Exactly. Right? Can you imagine this? Now, this is Apple's statement: to bring in the best user experience to customers through innovative hardware, software, and services. Now, imagine if the statement was to bring in the best user experience to the shareholders through innovative hardware, software, and services. Can you imagine? You're dead in the water at that point. I am completely disconnected. I don't care about the shareholders. But I think that's where they hit the mark, Apple and companies like SpaceX, Tesla, Airbnb, making it about the customer and the impact that you have on their lives, the impact that you have on the employees, and the impact of overall that you have on the world of what your business is doing. If you make that the focus, I can imagine that is a much stronger purpose than focusing on missing the mark.
Yeah, with Apple too, I mean, that user experience being kind of their core thing, you see that all the way from, when they came up with, the early Macs, and then you get to the iPod and then, the iPhone, and it's all very user driven experience. Certainly, yeah, empathetic, right? But it's at the core of everything they do, and they aren't going to release something, that's going to be sort of half-ass, right? And you kind of expect that from them, and that's why everyone's a little bit fanatical even about some of their products.
I mean, you have to imagine the decade before Steve Jobs came back. That was when they were focused on the shareholders. All their products were based on the Apple II that was super successful, and then they just segued, how do we just keep making more money? And at that point, right before they went back to Steve for help, they were practically bankrupt. And all of the products that were money-driven really failed. And then Steve Jobs came back and created something for the customer, and got the whole world involved, and that changed the game.
And this is a key thing, okay, because Apple is another great use case for empathetic approach to the market. Why did they fail? because their product wasn't up to snuff with the PC. It wasn't, right? But how is it that they were selling it before, even though it wasn't up to snuff with the PC? Because Steve Jobs knew something about creating a sense of belonging. He created a culture around the product. If you're one of the cool kids, one of the creatives, you use a Mac, right? So the other thing about purpose is knowing that you're not going to capture everyone. With the exception of Airbnb, they figured out how to capture everyone, right? Maybe even Whole Foods. But it's the idea that you have something that means something to a certain group of people, and they will levitate towards that because they want to belong to that. They already belong to that in their lives. It just resonates with them. It's a natural thing to levitate towards a brand that represents what they already represent. You know, for example, I love the Whole Foods statement, to nourish people and the planet. Okay. We all need nourishment, but there are people more interested in nourishing the planet than others. So it's not a one size catch all. It's specific to the people that care about the planet. And so they have a purpose that resonates with people who already care about that. They're not attracting new clients, they're not converting clients. They're attracting clients who already live this way. And so that there's a built-in following and a sense of belonging for those people. And that's the key thing, is if you don't define your purpose based on understanding who you want to do business with, or better yet, who you want to create a community with, because that's the key, right? Steve Jobs created a community. Then you're dead in the water. You're just going to get people who are interested in a transaction. And at that point, you're going to have to, compete on price. Why can something be more higher? Because it meets my need for belonging to something that I care about.
Absolutely. And to further this point, I just want to give some historical context too. You could validate this. Steve Jobs, during that decade when he was working on Next, he was creating that community, but Next didn't sell a darn thing, right? It was not a profitable company, but it had such a cult following, and it had that community, and it had such a strong purpose. Apple bought Next and turned it into the Macintosh it used all of that technology. But for 10 years, it didn't make any money. So, when you think about it, but it was able to drive that purpose that Apple saw and found that it was missing. It was like, that's the missing piece right there. I don't care if it's not profitable now. I know it will be with the right sauce, right? And Apple had the sauce, and Steve Jobs had the final piece. So that's a huge, huge point there.
Let me hop into another corporate purpose statement. I think a lot of these mention people, the ones we kind of like. And so this one does too. And this is Hyatt Hotels. It says, our purpose is to care for people so they can be their best. Then they've also added this to it. And that means providing a truly inclusive experience and making a difference in the lives of everyone we touch. But I think to care for people so they can be their best is it's a very simple thing that, someone from the front desk to, maid service to whatever can all kind of understand. And if you're really living by that, you'll feel it as a customer, right?
Yeah. Could you imagine that statement being used by an airline that does international travel and the seats are all packed like sardines? It would not be living true to those words, right? So, that's the other key component, is if you're going to make a purpose statement, then it also has to define how you deliver on it. And, Hyatt obviously does a really good job with that, but very interesting.
I want to say, speaking of airlines, I want to say Southwest is something like freedom to fly or something, but their whole purpose around that freedom is to get, when they started, air travel used to be something that very few could afford. And then their goal was to make it affordable. And so they started with these small routes and, lower fees. And many of the things they do carry back to that same, let's make this affordable, allow families to fly from, top to bottom. That's what they're looking at, and why they're probably so successful too, is they really live by that purpose. So how does a well-articulated purpose statement influence the stakeholders, right? From employees to customers, what goes into it? I think we were watching that same EQ session this past week, Ash, and I think maybe you'll remember. He talked about on there how highly engaged workforces outperform peers by 147%. I mean, that's pretty huge. And then that session also talked about that 25 from your employees, you typically get 25% of your average employees all the time. And that's what kept him up at night, was that he only got 25%. It's like, what about that other 75%? And I think, and he says that's voluntary to try, and he keeps them up at night trying to, how am I going to get that other 75% out of my employees? And I think those two stats, though, really talk about the importance of purpose that people can get behind. Because if you can't get behind a purpose, hey, the purpose is for shareholders to make profits, that's not really going to motivate your average employee. So I think, how do we uncover kind of the heart of a business? What do you guys think here? I mean, it's about figuring out your why, I think.
I think it's authentically and empathetically understanding your employees and what your goals are within that sector. What I mean by that is really understanding what are the needs of your employees and authentically caring about them, right? And let me give you an example. In our culture, for example, the fact that we have a culture where I can openly share my passions and then have the team involved and engaged. For me, the fact that everyone cares about me and cares about the passions I have outside of work. When I get up in the mornings, I'm not thinking about my paycheck with this job. I'm thinking past that I'm coming here because, one, we have a Northern Star that we all believe in, but two, I'm working with people that genuinely care about me, including my superiors that care about me. So I'm not coming here. I'm coming here because you guys are helping me achieve my passions outside of work as well. So that is a whole different ballgame. So that empathetic and that authentic connection with your employees, and then being able to segue that to your customers, having that authentic, empathetic connection with them and understanding what their needs are and what they're really looking for, understanding. I think that moves everything past the typical. Now, if I were to look at this job as a paycheck, then I would treat it as a paycheck. And how do people treat things as a paycheck? Well, they're always going after other things and trying to sustain their paycheck for as long as they can until they could jump ship. Or in other cases, they get picked up. So a bigger paycheck comes in. Well, that person's not staying. For me, you could come with the biggest paycheck. There's no other company that has a Northern Star like we have. And for me, I can't. It's a bigger risk for me to leave something this awesome for more money, knowing I could go in and completely go down the drain and have to dig for a gem like this to exist. So that's my back on that.
Yeah, Ash, you kind of hit on this topic of the mindset, right? So as an employee, when you approach your job, there's really three mindsets here. You've got the job mindset, and that's what you're talking about. Work is a paycheck. I'm doing this to get paid. If that's how it goes to your company, that kind of breeds this disengagement, right? If everybody's there just to pick up a paycheck and that's it, that's going to be a disengaged office. So you got the job mindset. Then you also have like the career mindset. And so that's where here you're pursuing, status and power, and you think about yourself over others. Everyone's probably been in one of these stages at one or another time in their lives, but everyone wants to advance in their career, obviously, right? But you also have to be careful not to advance at any cost. This is where those CEOs, even the very financially successful ones, some of them can be a bit sociopathic, whereas ego-driven, very ruthless, and a lot of companies kind of value things that lead people the wrong way in rising up in the organization. So you got the job mindset, then you got the career mindset. And then you've got the purpose mindset. And so this is where you align your values to help people and society. Whatever your job is, you're kind of aligning to that. And so if you want to be a rock star in your role at your job, hit this one. This is the purpose mindset that you have. There's so much more substance here. Help develop that purpose mindset if you're a leader. Companies here, they foster that employee growth. Right? They model purpose for everyone. They empower people. They help develop self-actualization. Maybe what you're talking about, Ash, too, is like we're very, aware of trying to help you self-actualize in all different ways in your life so that you're living this more full, complete life. So yeah, if you've got an organization like that, right, that's going to be a lot different than one where it's just this job mindset and people come in there just to pick up the paycheck and it's just very disengaged. So we had this employee last week who did get that rock star reception at this franchise event he went to, they had their annual meeting, and the client said it was literally like a rock concert reception for the account manager. So because I think we try to focus on the lives we change, get beyond the numbers and understand the lives and the families that we can impact. So when you're there, this employee, I hope you're really feeling that. It's like, that's kind of the high art of business, is when you can combine that heart and the bottom line. So if we can set a stage where our employees can, rise to the occasion like that, or where they can feel the lives they touched, I mean, that's the higher purpose for us. And I think, it's like, how do we set that stage? And it's really, you do have to really think empathetically throughout that process.
Can I speak to that point without giving names or accounts? There's something really powerful here I just want to speak to, and I want the audience to hear this. That same employee, and again, I'm not going to name any accounts and name the employee at all, but that same employee was attached to an account. And I recall early on when we lost that relationship, and I remember telling myself, oh man, in my previous job, if I had lost a relationship like that, and it wasn't that he was responsible for losing, it's just something that happened and it was unfortunate, right? I was an account that decided to move on to other business and so on, but it was something out of his control at that time. But nonetheless, I was thinking to myself during that time, a lot of people were talking about, oh my goodness, this account left. What could happen potentially to our jobs, or could this potentially affect our jobs? And I recall that it didn't affect us at all. We continued moving forward on our Northern Light. What's amazing is that with that massive loss that we had as a company losing that account, we gained more accounts since then. And that same employee that was attached to that loss is now had a rock star moment. And it's like an amazing wow. Now I look back, any other company, if I had worked up, I was attached to an account that I lost that was massive, I probably would have lost my job or been a fear of losing my job. I think I owe someone something. And oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening, and so on and so forth. But we didn't react that way. It was business as usual. We kept to our Northern Light. And it's amazing to see that almost 6 months later, standing ovation for that same person, right? So, and how we looked at it from black and white, or how most companies are, oh, it's that person's fault. Oh my goodness. Which is the environment I came from, right? That we would have missed on this massive opportunity, which I think is even bigger than that opportunity that was lost. So one door closed, 5 other opened up in a really positive, powerful way. And that same person got that recognition at the highest level. And I think that's amazing and beautiful to share. Now, I wish I could go to the details, but we can't. But the thought is amazing.
But that, that talks to the idea that I shared earlier, which is, many companies confuse mission and vision with purpose. A mission statement, it can change based on the circumstances. A vision can even change based on circumstances. So you're only going to produce the results based on that vision or mission, and it could be temporary. And so it could be short-lived. It doesn't have sustainability built into it. That's how they're structured. They're meant to produce a certain result for a period of time. Purpose is really tied to what Stephen said earlier, our values. What do we stand for? And so when you are purposeful as a business, which is tied to the individuals that share in that purpose and those values, that's sustaining, that's long-term. You're not going to, if you're a person of integrity, that's not going to change. You're going to be someone of integrity. That's just who you are. Those are the core tenets that make up who you are. And the business develops a personality, just like human beings, of being of that personality. That's the company that's committed to the people, that's committed to the client, that even through difficult time, they work through and they patiently wait to continue to fulfill their purpose. And in this case, that purpose came full circle, right? Because it was an enduring core value that survived mission or vision that can change at any moment. So, and a lot of companies actually doing themselves a tremendous disservice, and also to their employees, when they don't understand the importance of defining the purpose tied to values. I've gone through many branding exercises in my career, of which, it started with usually in post M&A scenarios, starts out with, let's find a new company name, and it's like everybody's barreling down this vision of starting a new company name and making a new mission statement. And it's like, okay, let's back up for a second. Who are we collectively now as a brand? What are our values? The people who started those companies that got acquired, they had an idea of what they wanted to accomplish in the world. And if there's multiple ones that did that, so it's like, how do we marry these multiple values? And you're going to get that through engaging the employees and actually asking them, what do you value most, right? And going through this exercise, I've seen, hundreds of people contribute their personal values, and then the amalgamation of that emerged as, this is who we are as a business. This is what we stand for. And so defining those values as a company, think of the company has its own personality, its own soul. You want to define it and then make something, a statement that's purposeful, that becomes the guiding light that everything aligns around, including the executives. They live by it, becomes the higher purpose of the organization. And it's not an easy task. It takes time, energy, and commitment and investment. And those usually short-thinking companies are just focused on the shareholder value, miss out. And they miss out the profits that come from doing this too, because as we've discussed in previous podcasts, there's significant ROI for doing things this way in a more empathetic way.
I think really too, we can all agree on this, and it's just for the audience. We have no control, but we can agree that a storm is always a brewing, whether we like it or not. And we could always prepare for it. And to bring that example of the storm that brewed, there was no change of the approach of that during that time was still our best foot forward. We had no control really of that storm other than to keep doing our best. And it showed that once the storm subsided, the success was there. Our approach was still always correct. It was.
That's interesting because in that storm, we saw it coming too. And like the culture at this company in question, it was really kind of upsetting to me. It was like, this is not a good culture. But we flew out there and, had a meeting with them. This is months and months before, the relationship went south, because we were already thinking like, wow, they're doing some very disconnecting things here in some of these meetings, some of this language and stuff like that. It's just, let's just go out there. Let's just meet face to face and, continue our approach to it. But in the back of my mind, it's like, yeah, I think something's going on here politically that's, again, this could go back to like the core values of the company over there. It's like, I really don't know what they were other than cover your ass. Might be
you probably hadn't defined them.
Yeah.
But so I think too, having those core values of the company, it's going to help you during those whole processes, right? It's always going to be your northern light. And as someone coming to a company, so if it's really well articulated, that core purpose, you're going to attract people too that have that kind of like-minded. You're going to attract like-minded people, right? So for me, I think of companies like REI, right? You go in there. So their core purpose is we inspire, educate, and outfit for a lifetime of outdoor adventure and stewardship. And they really kind of live by this. You go in there, I bought some boots once, and I was getting all kinds of questions. Hey, where are you hiking? What kind of terrain and stuff like that? And they're very enthusiastic about it. And they're even telling me, hey, this is how I lace my boots, like going up a summit. Here's how I change them on the way down. There's all these little details that just went into this experience that this person brought. They weren't trained on some of this stuff. This is just their passion for it, right? So REI, they've got this purpose statement. They're attracting people to that purpose statement. That's one of the really easy ways, I think, on how you can live by the purpose is if you're setting that tone and you're telling people this is what we're about, then you're going to attract people that are about that too. So that's kind of an easy way to help you live by a purpose, I think, is just, making sure you articulate this really well, and then, express that, then you're going to attract people in that same vein. I also think, yeah, go ahead, Tullio.
I was going to say, I agree 100%. Like attracts like. So you will attract the kind of people that are interested in that. And then it takes a life of its own. It becomes alive, and it's a living organism that's self-sustaining. But you have higher engagement too. So if you're watching this and you are one of those companies that has disengaged employees, low engagement rate, low satisfaction rate, I can almost guarantee you there's a lack of purpose within the organization. There's a lack of understanding of the core values of the organization. There's a lack of stewardship towards those core values. You've brought in people that just are doing their job, but don't feel like they belong to something that's got some meaning or some purpose. Almost every time, you can change your CEO, you can change all the people, you can keep firing folks to try to straighten it out. It will never get fixed until you get to the root of it, which is the lack of purpose that's not built in, tied to some core values. Until you go through that exercise, you'll always struggle with that. And it's a sad reality, but it's also fixable. And with that fix also will come the pain of change, but that change will be enduring and long-term. I've seen it. I've lived it. I've seen the opposite happen as well, where there's companies that didn't have a purpose and they just kind of fall off track because different leaders come in. So, it's that important, and it's critical to the success of your business long-term. Your purpose are enduring values that will outlast this generation into the next. You don't have that in place, you're only as good as this generation.
Wait, Tullio, so you're telling me there's a chance I could lose a couple accounts if I discover what my Northern Light is?
You might, but you'll gain the right accounts that will stick with you forever, and the employees that will stick with you forever. So it's a choose your poison, so to speak, right?
Well, I think I would call one's an ointment, right?
One's an elixir. Yes,
one's an elixir, right? Get the poison out. Because to that point, you're right. You attract but you also detract people who don't follow those same values. Absolutely. I can imagine those individuals are probably hurting your current system. You're not even aware of it. So you might short term have some losses, but long term you're creating a sustainable system. Or you say, you know what, I'm just going to keep servicing people that don't fit within my values and system. And long term, I'm short term you might be okay, but long term you're just going down to the grave site. And when people don't want to work for you anymore, and companies have killed you because exhausted resources, you've given them everything.
It's no different than what happens in real life, right? If you've got something you're working toward to improving about yourself, maybe you have an addiction that you've worked hard to overcome. While you had that addiction, you attracted all kinds of people that supported where you were in your state of being, right? But once you got rid of that and you made some changes and some transformation, those people flee from you because there's no like attracting like anymore. You're no longer that person, so they leave you. But you didn't attract the right kind of people in your life. It's no different in a business. The business becomes its own personality. And who you attract to work with you and do business with you ties into who you are.
So business is very human?
Yes. Unlike some of those statements that sound like machines wrote.
So think about this. Too, I think you can also have sort of your personal purpose, right? That kind of thing, and bring it to a company. And then you can also align your purpose with the company's purpose in a way. So I think of so here's Walmart's purpose is we save people money so they can live better. So everyone in that organization, is they're really thinking about saving money here, saving money there, so they can pass the savings along to customers. So that could even mean something like, hey, when leadership is out renting, a car or a hotel, staying at a hotel, it's, this affordable economic thing. And so they can pass it along. But think about someone there who goes to this job they really love environmental causes or sustainability, and they come to Walmart. You can get a position related to that could tie also into Walmart's messaging. So how could you do that? So you could be asking questions like, how can we use less packaging, right? How can we use less electricity, have more natural light come in, use solar. And this, you can sell this in too by saying, hey, this also saves you money, which we can pass along, to our customers. So it ties into that whole purpose again. Well, you're in a job that really aligns with what your passion is too. So you can find ways sometimes to pull your own passions into your job and align it with that purpose, which I think can be really powerful. So you don't always have to be like, yeah, my purpose, is the environment, and I'm coming to this company, and they're really not about the environment that I can see. You don't have to be that way. You can say, oh, here's how we can be about that, and align it with their purpose. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Totally. And there's challenge associated with that, Stephen, because we live in a time where people or pursuing happiness at all costs, but it's not sustainable. Actually, when you pursue purpose, you actually create fulfillment. So there's a mind shift that also needs to happen for the individuals, where you're starting to think, what is it that I really care about? Is it just to chase happiness? Happiness can be fleeting, but if I am focused on pursuing my purpose, then I will live a life of fulfillment because I'm fulfilling my purpose. And so it becomes very different when you take a job that may not align perfectly with what you're passionate about, but maybe you have a family. So your purpose is to take care of your family. So it becomes a vehicle for doing that. I mean, even if it's not something you're passionate about. When you shift from thinking about temporary happiness, for example, which is tied to vision and mission, to purpose, then you also shift what becomes more meaningful to you. And the same applies to businesses. There's a direct correlation to, a mindset and the business's mindset too.
Yeah, for sure. So how can leaders help the company live by that purpose? Like, what can they do to direct us as employees in that right direction? What are you guys' thoughts on this? For sure, I think obviously you can be the torchbearer, right, of the purpose. And you can repeat the mantra and you want to embody that and be everything that the torchbearer is. But if you're, maybe you're not super charismatic. So is that a problem? Because maybe you won't motivate that one person that's coming in with a different sort of mindset. I think one of the ways that you can, say you're not a charismatic leader, but you can do things that align with your purpose. You can audit your operations according to your purpose, right? This is our purpose. Let's go through every part of our company and let's audit it toward that purpose. And really that's when we talk about Bliss, building love into scalable systems, this is what it's really about at its core. I mean, it works really well. You're going in there, you're asking this simple question about no matter how big or small a part of your company is, it's like, are we building love into this part of this process? So it's got to translate, I think, to operations, right? For companies to live by it, for everyone to really start to feel the why of a company, because you're constantly asking that. You're constantly taking this empathetic approach, right, to every part of your business. And along the way, I think even people who don't have purpose, they might find their purpose in keep continually asking that question.
I think the CEO title should be changed to Chief Purpose Officer. All joking aside, I mean, you're making an interesting point. Whether you're a charismatic leader or not, you can keep the purpose on point. And also just being genuine. There's this sense of duplicity that often happens. We talked about it, where you're one way at the office and something else at home. There's no need to do that. Just be yourself. Let people know you for who you are. If you're shy, let people know that you're shy. Don't try to be something you're not. And that authenticity and that vulnerability will do wonders towards rallying people towards whatever the purpose is that your business represents, because it's real, it's authentic. No one has to make believe there's something they're not. And everyone will find their parts on how they belong in it within what they're good at and comfortable with. But you have to create psychological safety for people to step into that. And I think that's the biggest job of a CEO or a senior leadership, is to create that safety and to be genuine and to be authentic and to be vulnerable and just not try to be something that they're not, be themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the purpose-driven mindset is really impact and fulfillment. It's really, how can you make an impact and how can you help those find their fulfillment? And I think having a team of individuals who are working towards their own fulfillment in an environment, and you being the catalyst of that, you get individuals that then want to help you achieve the company's Northern Light. Everyone working together towards their own goal, knowing that helping your goal helps them achieve their goals, and it's creating impact for everyone around us. I think that mindset is a transformational for all industries and all companies.
Yeah, and I think, like Tullio, you also mentioned, like, I think it's just about authenticity, right? It's that's really what a lot of these podcasts are for us, is to help companies be authentic, because if you're not living by it, then your marketing campaign, is going to fall flat. But to your point though, Tullio, it's like you want your organization to live by the golden rule, right? As a leader, maybe you're not that charismatic leader, or you're not, you don't know where you fall, in this world of leadership and your style and everything. But if you're thinking about other people and you're treating other people how you want to be treated, and you look at your business in every aspect in that way, that's going to build an authentic business and authentic people, right? Because you're all sort of focusing now on taking someone else's perspective all the time. And you're all going to come together with this, thought of, how do I solve this problem? Well, how would I feel on the other end of this problem? And if you can kind of just live with, this mindset of, either building love in it, or, love always being this higher ground, you're going to come off as authentic, because you're always going to be trying. People are going to say, hey, this person, at least they were trying to do something right by you. And it's hard to get wrong. I mean, to get mad at someone who did something wrong, if their heart was really in the right place the whole time, it's like, okay, yeah, I see what you're trying to do there. That was very thoughtful, and, maybe it fell flat or something, but it's still very authentic, right? Versus you make a mistake and they see your heart somewhere else, and you made the mistake because your heart was somewhere else, focusing on profits over people, that kind of thing. That's just going to ring flat with everyone.
And, Stephen, that's ultimately what empathy is about, right? When I learned this idea, it really changed the perspective for me personally. This idea that if you treat everyone as equal, that's a great empathetic leader. But if you treat people like they're superior to you, that is the ultimate empathy, because now you're going to be of service to people, and you can never, ever go wrong. Even if you make a mistake along the way, it can never go wrong if your intention is to serve the greater good of people, because people will see right through it. It's like they tried something, it didn't work out, but their heart's in the right place. I forgive them. I'll work with them to get it in the right place, because you want to see that person succeed. So it creates a culture of people who care about each other. You set the stage for that. And that is ultimately what leadership is about, caring for others.
Yeah, I think so too. And if you've got you see yourself in that career mindset, you can still have that career mindset, but also start thinking about being of service to other people, right? In that mindset, if you bring that to the table all the time, you're going to have a hell of a career ahead of you, versus just thinking about yourself. So you can still have sort of this, okay, I've got big pictures for my career. Everyone's got that, right? But it's really, how do you separate your everything, from yourself, and through the lens of yourself? It's by looking at how I can be of service to other people in this process, versus to be of service of myself because of, I've got this career. And I notice it in our culture too. Like we've got our KPIs that we're working toward, but we also, to me, it's like, does this person see our purpose? How can we help, bring that along? All the different cultural type questions that typically it's very, I guess, hard to measure for people. If you've got shareholder value as your main thing, you're going to be emphasizing those KPIs, versus if you've got these cultural values like that you're really judging against as well. It's like, how well can we do in this love aspect of our business, and how well can we do in this financial aspect? So it's really just, can the heart and the bottom line coexist? Yes, they can. Keep working at it. You'll get there someday. Any last thoughts on finding the purpose and living by it?
I think my last thought here is, remember that defining and living your company's why isn't just good for business, it's good for your soul. That's what I'm going to leave on that one. I think when you do things that are good for your soul, I think everything else just falls into place. And that's my feedback on that.
Yeah, and I think
that's key to everything, your personal fulfillment's tied to it.
And if you, as a business, if you focus on empathy, and in how you live and how you work, you will find the why and you will find the how. I think that's really important. If you're just focusing on that empathy, maybe you don't know what it is right now, right, in your business. But if you keep focusing on that along the way, I think that's where you're going to say, oh, this is kind of the bigger picture of what I do. An example of that for me is, it doesn't matter what size your business is. It can be big or large going through this process, but take a hairdresser, for example. If you ask what they do, some of them might say, I cut hair, right? Or you can be like this husband and wife who I met, and what they do is give people confidence. So confidence to be great at whatever they do. So the same job, just a different perspective, because they have this purpose of helping people in their lives, giving them this confidence, pulling for their clients as they, tackle whatever big challenges they have in their life, or these big moments in life, and why they're there sometimes, is all related around big moments sometimes too. So it's becoming this part life coach and cheerleader for their clients. And then you start asking yourself in that process, how can I get better at that purpose that I'm doing? Not just the cutting the hair, but that other purpose of helping people find their confidence. And now, little by little, you start living by it as even a small business person. And I think it doesn't matter the size of your company. It's just the questions you're asking is, if you constantly take this empathetic and loving approach, I think, to it, you're gonna help find how you're really making an impact in people's lives.
I need to go to that salon. With less hair, you definitely lose some confidence. So I need to change salon.
Yeah, but I mean, it's true though. It's like, a lot of people are very concerned about how they come off, and just having someone that can do something for them that gives them just that little bit more confidence. So they're stepping into that meeting, or they're, they're maybe getting married or something like that, and they're the center of attention. There's a lot of different ways that confidence can be built into what you do. So let's recap here real quick. So really, you want to find out why in your business, and we didn't talk about it, but you could ask like the 5 whys type of process, go through it. Why do you do this? Why do you just go deeper and deeper until you really find the heart of what you care about and what you do. And think about, like, if you don't have an idea in your company's purpose, I think you could probably take that Ben and Jerry's purpose to make the best possible, fill in the blank, and do it in the nicest possible way. I think that would work for just about most companies, and you'd have at least a reasonable northern light for yourself. And then, like we said, build love into your system, right? We are always preaching that. That will help you find your why. And, really important, audit your processes toward your overall purpose. If you found your purpose, you're like, okay, yes, this is it. Now audit your processes. Go through every little bit, compare it to the purpose. How can we get closer to that purpose? Then you're going to start living by it more and more. So, and then also I want to recap, we talked about the job mindset, the career mindset, and the purpose mindset. If you can really focus in on that purpose mindset, you better, because the younger generations are entering the workforce in higher and higher numbers with that purpose mindset. So you need to cater to that, whether you like it or not. That's the next wave of businesses that are coming. These really purpose-driven mindsets. All right. So let's talk about the next podcast real quick. On the next podcast, our quest will be how you can carry that purpose to the world with your marketing. So when you do that, it can make some of the most profound ad campaigns, and you can really connect on an emotional level. And when you do that, well, the results can be phenomenal. So if there were only a tool out there that could help you do this, to find out, stay tuned on the next Bliss Business Podcast.